Allegiance.
Reportable action. Oh, it's me. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Haven't seen you in a long time. Nice to see you.
So Psalm 107, 21 and 22 says, "Let them give thanks to the Lord for his loving kindness and for his wonders to the sons of men. Let them also offer sacrifices of thanksgiving and tell of his works with joyful singing." Are you ready to sing? Oh no, we should pray. Gracious and loving God, we thank you. This is a season when we set aside time to be grateful. We remember the things we are thankful for. Lord, we thank you for our country. We thank you for our freedom, for those who fought for our freedoms. Lord, we thank you for this unique and wonderful community, for our leaders, and for our families and our friends. We invoke and invite your presence in this meeting tonight. May the words spoken and the thoughts expressed be in the best interests of these people. Lord, thank you. Bring a sense of unity and of peace. We thank you for the creative ways this council has cared for Norco in the face of this season of pandemic. Lord, bless Mayor Bash, Mayor Pro Tem Newton, and council members Ellman, Grendmeyer, and Hoffman. Lord, we are thankful for their commitment, their integrity, and for the many things they do above and beyond these meetings. Lord, thank you for the people gathered here for tonight and for all the volunteers that make so many wonderful things happen. There is such a special heart of volunteerism in Horsetown, USA. Lord, thank you for these amazing people who reflect hearts of kindness and care. God bless this meeting tonight. God bless the city of Norco, and God bless the USA. Amen.
Thank you. John, any reportable action from closed session?
No, the City Council considered those matters listed on the agenda and 2 additional matters which were added as urgency items, and there are no reportable actions.
So we're now going to move to a presentation for a Spirit Award. This came about, as I've explained before, we began to realize that some people during the pandemic and even before the pandemic were doing some extraordinary things, and we thought that we would take these opportunities each meeting to identify some of the people that just went above and beyond and served their community. So this council meeting, it's Catherine Alleman, who is going to be presenting an award to some very worthy Norconian. Or not so worthy. She's my friend. I'm teasing her.
All right, good evening, everyone. I love all the support I see for Miss Christina. So, woohoo, yes! Christina Booney-Bonaris has been the owner of Wicked Pilates since 2015, and her passion for helping others extends far beyond the walls of her studio. Every year, Christina raises money for breast cancer research through her Dance for a Cure in Pink fundraiser by selling tickets and auctioning off items. Her organization also donates money to other breast cancer fundraisers and other fitness studio fundraisers. Each year, her studio also supports families in need of physical and occupational therapy by sponsoring tables at the Leaps and Bounds fundraiser and inviting members of the Wicked Pilates community to participate and show their support. She has raised thousands upon thousands of dollars for these causes. Just last year, she raised over $13,000. Yes, applaud that. At the last Norco Kiwanis 5K run, Christina's studio offered a Zumba warm-up and cool-down before and after the race for community members. Her studio was also a drop-off location this year for another Norco Kiwanis event, the Backpack and School Supply Drive, in which both her studio and her dedicated members generously supported by donating funds and school supplies to go to local children in need. Christina also offers private Pilates sessions at a reduced cost for people in medical need of mindful movement and exercise. After completing her Pilates special population and injuries training, she has come to realize just how important Pilates is for this group of people. In addition to running her own small business and contributing to all of these charitable causes, Christina is a staunch supporter of local businesses, and she can often be found sharing about other small businesses in Norco and promoting the importance of shopping local. Christina embodies the spirit of Norco through her community building and her commitment to uplifting others in any way she can. On behalf of the City of Norco and the Norco City Council, it is my honor and privilege to present Christina Bonoris with the Community Spirit Award, and we thank you for all that you do in our community.
Okay. Thank you very much, Council Member Ms. Alleman. Thank you, Council Members, Mayor. So yes, as I was preparing a speech for the last 3 days, but I have to say that I am very, very blessed to be in a community like Norco. Wicked Pilates is going to be 10 years old in January. We were the first Pilates and fitness studio in the Inland Empire and the first Pilates studio to introduce Pilates to Norco and our neighbor cities. I have to say, when I came to Norco, everybody had open arms, and this is pretty wonderful. You can find communities where a handshake still counts and your word still counts, and Norco has this. A small town like Norco, small but very big, there are so many opportunities to help the community. And I think if a community works hand in hand, then we really, really can move mountains. It's all about support, it's all about love, and it's all about helping one another. And adding some fitness and Pilates to it helps as well. So, again, this is a wonderful, wonderful town, and the people are honest. And your word counts, and you can trust people. And I don't think there are a lot of cities where you can say it. So thank you very much. I have the best community. All my Wicked Pilates family here, my family, my husband. I have 3 wonderful children, and without you, nothing would have been possible. You guys rock. You guys are in my heart, and I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Good. Good.
Okay, thank you. One more picture. Wicked Pilates.
reconsider once a month. This means a lot to people.
Oh, I know.
Ted, why don't you come on down? Is American Electric here? Oh, that's too bad. You know what? We'll do this anyway. So Ted and I were at an event on Friday at the Corona Chamber of Commerce. Ted went as a veteran, I went as an elected official, and Bobby Spiegel, as you all know, has been doing quite a bit to help with our memorial. We've actually raised a bit of money. And so anyway, he came up and he wanted to make sure, he called me the night before, wanted to make sure we were both there, and we didn't know what was coming. Well, it turns out that American Electric in Corona decided to make a donation to the city of Norco's Gold Star Family Monument. So Ted and I, we invited them to come here tonight, and he made sure he got what they presented to us. So I'm going to go ahead and let Ted unveil this for people. And we just kind of want to give a shout out to him. Oh, it is a check for...
This is a check for $10,000 for the Gold Star Family Monument. And let me tell you, I'm standing up there in front of all this group of people, all these veterans, along with others, Corona Chamber members, and I was just amazed. I was taken back when she presented this to us. Had no idea. So this was very special. And I know, talking to Brian, we buy stuff from them, which is good. They support us. We support them. It's not what our criteria, but it's nice that they give back. This is really cool. And he's owned by a veteran, by the way. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So we'll send a letter out from the council and thanking him for it. And just as a side note, the Kareem Nakui Scholarship at Norco High School is now up to $21,000. And so that's a $2,500 a year scholarship. So that's pretty good. God, could you imagine if that Christina had more energy? Just like a light bulb. All right, we're moving on to City Council reports and actions, starting with Mayor Pro Tem Newton.
November 4th, attended the Chino Basin Desalter Board of Directors meeting. Nothing else to report.
I put nothing to report, but I did attend the Norco unload meeting. I'm sure Robin will speak to that. Otherwise, nothing else to report. Thank you.
So November 8th, we had the unload meeting. We are looking to have an event in the spring for the youth in the community regarding the dangers of driving under the influence. So we're trying to make it kind of not just drunk driving, but under any influence of alcohol or drugs. And so that will be tied closely to prom. So we'll be looking at that in April. And then I also attended the Cal Cities meeting, which is still virtual. And then November 9th, we had our very first Day of the Cowboy Committee meeting to start planning for next year.
All right, I'm going to follow on that. The Day of the Cowboy Planning Meeting, mark your calendar, July 23rd, or as Berwin would say, July 23rd of 2022. And it's, even though it's over 6 months away, it's going to be coming up real fast. And it's going to be exciting. So, of course, with Kevin and myself, a lot of Veterans Day planning. And I want to thank city staff and everybody else, all the volunteers that came up along with all our speakers. We got a lot of compliments on it. It was well done. And Robin, as always, thank you for all the flowers and things that you guys do up there. And it worked out right. It was just a good, and all showed up very respectful and well attended. So thank you. Well, Western Community Energy, Robin goes, is it still going on? Yes, it is. And I was elected as the president or the chair for that, and Russ Brown of Hemet is our vice chair, at least for another year until we get this all put to bed and put away. As Kevin said, I went to the Chamber Veterans Appreciation Breakfast. Attended the grand opening of Fuel Up with Kevin and Catherine, and you know what? Those guys are pretty cool over there. And what was nice is I got to learn about renewable diesel fuel and alternative fuels, and I shared it with Todd Shank, our Public Works, the Parks people. So who knows, if we can look into it and see if we can get a low carbon producing fuels, that's great. That's enough. Today, Brian, by the way, and Michelle, your folks did a good job. I stopped in just to say hi at the senior Thanksgiving dinner. Very nicely done. Very appreciated by those that I talked to over there. So good job. Thank you.
The most amazing, I did a whole bunch of really cool things. The one that I enjoyed a lot was the Norco College Veterans Education Resource Center grand opening. I got to be the MC. I was really honored. That's an amazing complex, and what's really nice is that they're spearheading the MOS. People that with your service MOS, you're able to sort of cut through a lot of the academic requirements to get your certifications and licenses to do, thousands and thousands of jobs, saving a lot of money. So I was very happy about that. And I also want to thank staff and Brian, Michelle, Todd, and Ted for getting that whole thing ready. I thought the event, it's hard for me to watch those events because I'm so involved in sort of the behind the scenes stuff, but those events just wouldn't come off without your staff, Brian, without Michelle, without Ted. And I just am really appreciative that you guys handle all those. Oh, and Robin, the flowers are beautiful. Thank you very much. I tried to send a link. The Allender family actually sent a video of the whole thing, and I'm going to try to get that out, and I thought that turned out pretty well. And they were just delighted. They said, wow, how'd you get all the media there and talking about my dad? And we're like, oh, well, we just like that, So, but they recorded all the news stations and talking about their dad, so they were stoked. And Shanna was very happy, and I think she called somebody to let them know she was delighted. Andy, thank you for setting all that up. Thank you for the support you give us. And I think that's about it for me. The rest of it's just normal stuff. So moving on to the consent calendar, I see that the staff would like to pull 2H. Would anybody else like to pull something?
F is in Frank, and G is in George.
F, G. Anyone else? Do I hear a motion to approve the rest?
Second.
Okay. I'm assuming we didn't have any audience members. Okay. All right, we'll go to 2F first. Ted? Oh, sorry.
too. I'm sorry, you'll have to vote again.
Greg broke it.
Thanks. Despite, there you go. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, Ted, 2F.
Yeah, and Chad, this is basically, I'm not opposed to doing this thing. I think that's important that the public realize the cost and probably for me too, when we looked at this, we saw the original, what we expected it to be when we did the capital improvement funds, and then all of a sudden, boom, this jumps up quite a bit. Can you explain it to them, all the cost and why it went up so high? I'd appreciate it.
Sure. When we originally, at least when I budgeted the concept of the project, it was very bare minimum as far as trying to convert it to a trail. Deb was doing basically grooming it, putting a trail fence in, and that was it. But it blossomed to putting in irrigation, tree wells, trees. The trees are be part of the grant program, so they're not costing anything. We're going to use those to thankfully plant some of our trees. But the irrigation system, the new water connection, the irrigation controllers, and obviously the other thing that's happened is all the pricing has definitely gone up. We don't have the old pricing of the fencing anymore. It went up quite a bit. And obviously the work itself, since it is a public bid project, it's going to be a lot more. The concrete on the other side of Kip's Corner that's going to the old shopping center where the old Stater Brothers was, that pricing's gone up to put and finish off that sidewalk area. But doing the new trail, it's just the costs and what it came out to bid just turned out to be a lot higher than we anticipated.
And thank you. And that's I kind of figured out reading it, but I just want the public to know that we didn't get very elaborate. This is just what's happened on the last year as the costs have gone up that much. And so I just want them to think that we're not getting extravagant.
No,
it's going to look very nice when it's done. And I think it's going to enhance the entranceway to the city along River Road in that area. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve. Thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Motion passes unanimous.
2G, Ted.
Yeah, and this is just, it's not so much on the parking lot, but Elvin and your parking lot and Todd in that area. The good thing is we've done that parking lot, we've improved it. We really need to keep track or keep maintenance on that drain line that comes down from Gonzalez's property into that. That's the collection point there. I don't want to see all that new asphalt and all that new the new construction we did and the drainage area ruined because we didn't take care of that collection basin down there. That's why I just gonna have to tell you it'll ruin everything we did if we let that back up with all that vegetation that's been growing down in there. So that's it. Unless you got Todd or Brian or anybody, now is good.
Understood.
Okay. At that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Motion passes unanimous.
2H, Brian.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have Michelle Anglin, who's done the project management on this, do a quick presentation for council and give you an update on this particular project.
Hi, Michelle.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Before you this evening, staff is requesting acceptance of bids and award of contract for the Riley Gymnasium renovation project and appropriation of additional funds from Measure R Fund to cover the costs and the contingency. 5 bids for the Riley Gymnasium renovation project were received and opened on November 2nd, 2021, with Neuro Construction, Inc. of Carlsbad being the lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $457,227. Based on the scope of the work, the total estimated cost of the Riley Gymnasium renovation project for construction, including the 10% contingency, is $502,950. Let's talk about the scope of work for the project in the original beginning of the project. Excuse me, I forgot my contacts. We have wall and ceiling insulation, interior painting and exterior sign, upstairs flooring, ADA storefront door, new security, restroom ADA accommodations, and a court divider curtain. The original scope of work pertaining to the installation was modified to change the ceiling insulation from a spray-on product and a batting system. As you can see here, this is the original, this is what the gym ceiling looks like and the sides of the walls. So you can see some of the debris had fallen off the walls and the siding there. The ceiling batting system that we're moving to is a long tab bending system installation, which we feel is the best solution for this facility. It's face fiberglass with extended tabs. It's adhered perpendicular to the purlins with metal banding. It has a Lamtech vapor retarder, and the R value is 30.
What's an R value?
The R value is the resistance to hold in heat or keep it cooler. So normally, oh Greg, you're gonna get me on this one. I think 24 is a good number, so 30 is pretty good for the ceiling, correct?
30 is a good answer, Michelle.
Okay. The walls will be a closed cell foam wall insulation. It's a 2-component spray applied polyurethane. It has a thermal fire rated barrier and elastomeric painted coating to make sure it looks nice. And the spray on polyurethane will not come off of the walls as like the other product had. And it has an R value of 21. Security and production of exterior signs and outside the scope of this award of contract, but are part of the overall project with an estimated cost of $35,000. These 2 items will be under 2 separate contracts. Therefore, an additional appropriation of $111,615 is needed from the Measure R Fund to award the current contract and complete the entire scope of work for Riley Gymnasium project. So the construction project, originally we had $430,242. The low bid came in at $457,227 with a contingency of $45,723, which brings the subtotal of the project to $502,950. We have some outstanding expenses that have already been incurred but aren't accounted for. So that brings the subtotal to a little over $500,000. And with the outside contracts with the security and the sign, brings the total project cost to $541,847. So the delta difference between what we have and what we need is $111,615. And with that, I'll conclude and answer any questions you have.
Just to add is that the improvements that Michelle's talking about also meets Title 24, which is a requirement.
Council, any questions?
Not any questions. A comment. Oh, I do have a question. Michelle, how many people or kids go through that gym every year?
2019, staff takes, we take data of who comes into our facilities and parks. In 2019, we had approximately 46,000 people going through that facility. Years before that, we had up to 84,000 people coming through. And that's really dependent on the leagues that we have, the private rentals, special events, anything else that happens. I do have to say that those numbers are duplicated numbers because it's the same people going through, but it's the amount of contact that those individuals have going through those doors day in and day out.
And the ages for most of those ranging from 6 years old to about 16?
There's younger that go in there, and we have adult leagues too. And some of our rentals they could be from a quilt show, or, we had our 50th anniversary sock hop in there. So there's a bunch of different uses for that facility.
And you don't.
We had movie nights, teen dances, LNCF car show in there. The car show wasn't in the gym, but they utilized that facility for their event.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. And I'll make a comment on this unless somebody has questions. For a building that probably wasn't, when it was built, wasn't supposed to last more than 20 years, this thing is served its community very well. And for just based upon what Chad just told us on the cost of everything increasing, I think a little over $500,000 is nothing compared to what the value of that structure, that facility is to the community, especially all the kids and the youth that serves. So I'm fully supportive of that. I just think it's a good improvement. So
I'd like to add too, those numbers are pre-COVID, and since we had the sports court replaced, we've included 2 volleyball courts and 4 pickleball courts. So it's in making this facility a little bit bigger, nicer, more enticing for extra recreational activities. And if this gets approved, I'm going to set up a pickleball tournament with staff and city council.
I feel sorry for staff. Hey.
I'll send you the rules.
I have a couple questions. I apologize I didn't send these ones to you beforehand. With these improvements, what does that do to the expected life expectancy of the facility?
This building was built in the 70s, early 70s. And so, one time we had looked at what would it cost to replace 15,000 square feet. So it would run you today's dollars somewhere between 8 and 10 million. So I think these improvements, the last remodel we did, which was late 90s, we've gotten this far before we needed to really do another renovation. I think you're easily going to see 15 to 20 years out of this. The court itself, in our last one, exceeded the time of life for it, and if we take care of it like we did before, then we should also get 20 years life out of that before we have to look at replace it. But I think you're looking at really 20 years. The challenge on a building like this is that if it's just structurally sound, it's the siding, this stuff, and other things that go bad. If you recall, in our capital improvement, we just put a new roof on this as well, and that roof is also will get us that 10 to 20 additional years before we have to do some maintenance to get there. But so you're really, the investment that we have in this building versus what you would outlay, you're well going to be able to enjoy this building for many, many, many years.
Thank you. And thank you for saying what it would cost to replace it, because that was my second question. And just my other comment would just be, this is sorely needed. A new sign is absolutely needed. My kids played basketball in here. It looks like things might, it's just, I think a lot of people are going to be very happy to see the improvement. So thank you.
Welcome.
I would like to see looking at a new facade for the outside. I think maybe if that comes, if we ever actually look at the community center complex, I think we could probably doll it up. Although there's some people I'm sure like the old look. So, but it would be nice maybe if we match somehow match the old school, the community center structure, which by the way is actually the oldest extent. Somebody said it was Lincoln School in Corona. That was built in 28. This was built in 25. Yeah, I know you were there. You were in first grade. In fact, you were in first grade, what, 4 years? You had to repeat 4 times? So do I hear so do we have a motion to approve? Is there anybody who wants to speak on this?
I have no speaker
I mean,
cards on
half
this
the
item.
staff is sitting there. All right, so close that. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you for the support.
You bet. Moving on to number 5, legislative matters. No new evidence will be heard from the public as the public hearing has been closed regarding the items listed. 5A? What? Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Strike that. Moving on to public comments. This is the time when persons wishing to address the presiding governmental body regarding matters not on the agenda may be heard. Please submit a speaker card to the meeting clerk. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. The Ralph M. Brown Act limits the governmental body's ability to respond to the comments on the non-agendized matters at the time such comments are made. The governmental body shall not discuss or act relative to any general public comment. Do we have any public comments?
We have one speaker card, Daryl Cravey.
Hey, Daryl. Nice
Good
to see
evening,
you.
Mayor
Good evening.
and council members. I went to a Veterans Day event in this city, and I've got to tell you, I'm proud to be a veteran. I'm proud to be a member of this community. It was probably the best Veterans Day event I've ever been to, and I've been to a bunch of them. Again, thank you all, and city staff, thank you. It was a wonderful event.
Thank you.
I have no further public comment.
Going, gone. Now, moving on to legislative matters. I've already read it. Who takes 5A?
Nothing. Remember, both of them are second readings. You just need a motion and
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 1075 for second reading.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes.
That's it? You don't read it? All right, moving on to 5B. Ordinance number 1076. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 1076, the second reading.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
And we will get started. There we go. Please vote. Motion passes unanimous.
God, you would think you wrote it. Jeez, these people from Riverside. God. Moving on to number 6, discussion action items. Order presentation for discussion items. Number 1, staff report presentation. Number 2, council questions of staff. Number 3, public comment. 4, council discussion and action. 6A, proposal to convert an existing dedicated special enforcement team deputy position to a dedicated traffic enforcement deputy position. Chief?
Like a tongue twister, isn't it?
Yeah, tonight it is.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'm here to discuss a proposal to convert one of our existing special enforcement team deputy positions to a dedicated traffic team deputy position. This may come as a surprise to you, but the number one complaint I receive from the community is traffic and really the lack of the visible enforcement out there. So our traffic deputies are hard at work. They're doing a great job. The reality is they're just stretched very thin. Some of the contributing factors to the strain that we're facing is the reality is our current staffing is much lower than it was 10 years ago. The OTS funding that we receive is also much lower than it was 10 years ago. The populations of all the surrounding communities have grown. We have fewer buses transporting children to school. We have an increased number of traffic collisions. And we currently have no traffic enforcement, dedicated traffic enforcement during the evenings. So there's a lot of things going on. Our guys are working very hard. They're just, it's difficult for them to be in all places at all times. And, we have a lot of requests for specific neighborhoods and schools and certain thoroughfares. I kind of came up with this concept. There's several different ways to go about it, but I thought a cost-effective and a quick way to do it would be to convert one of our existing deputy positions, really just a title change, but the city is already funding this position. It's already filled, and what we're really doing is just asking for a title change, and we would just reassign different responsibilities to this person. This action would not require us amending the law enforcement contract with the county, so it wouldn't have to go to the Board of Supervisors. Really just an in-house title change. There would be no delays in filling this position. Sometimes when we create new positions, sorry, let me get back to the mic. Sometimes when we create new positions, the position is approved, but it takes the department, the sheriff's department, some time to fill the position because, either the county is short on deputy staffing or the Harupa Valley Station is short. So because this is an existing position that's already filled, we're simply making a title change and we can fill it on our own timeline. So the plan would be to recruit a deputy for this position and deploy it in the near future as opposed to waiting for other, bureaucratic red tape. This is kind of just, I'm going to try and give like an overview of where we're at patrol-wise, dedicated staff, and kind of a little bit of statistical history. So that's kind of where we're going with this. But currently, the city contracts with the Sheriff's Department for 40 hours of patrol hours per day, which is 2 deputies per shift. So as you can see, we don't have a lot of extra deputies out there to conduct this enforcement. Although it is part of their duties as a patrol deputy, they simply just don't have the time to dedicate to proactive traffic enforcement. They have a lot of other things going on. We're adding new tasks and responsibilities to our patrol deputies daily, and so normally when you see them conducting traffic enforcement, it's because we've received a call for service and the deputy's responding, or there's just an egregious violation that occurs in front of them and they take some action. But primarily it's the traffic deputies that do all the enforcement and the patrol deputies that are handling the calls for service and dealing with the other issues. Currently, we have 5 additional dedicated sworn deputies. So that consists of our 3 special enforcement team deputies and our 2 traffic deputies. Just a quick overview of their responsibilities. The traffic deputies primarily are enforcing hazardous traffic violation and doing traffic collision investigations. Our set deputies, they're kind of the jack of all trades. So we use them like detectives. They do follow-up criminal investigations. They plan special events. They do homeless outreach, neighborhood watch programs. I mean, you name it, they do it. So they assist with patrol. They assist with traffic. They do everything. So we love our set guys, and they're doing a great job. If you look back to 2009, we were kind of at the height of our traffic staffing. So you can see in 2009, we had 8 additional dedicated sworn deputies, which consisted of 4 motorcycle enforcement deputies, 2 DUI traffic enforcement deputies, and then the 2 special enforcement team deputies. And the definitions of what they do are essentially the same. The motorcycle enforcement guys did the hazardous traffic violations and collision investigations. The only difference with the DUI units were their primary responsibility was DUI enforcement, and then traffic enforcement, and then traffic collision investigation. So those 2 DUI traffic enforcement deputies were night shift deputies, so they worked until about 2 o'clock in the morning. And then the set deputy responsibilities are essentially the same today as they were in 2009. So as everybody knows, 2009 was a really difficult time for a lot of cities. I think most of you were probably here or aware of this, but for those who weren't, we had to start eliminating some of our dedicated deputy positions. So in 2009, we eliminated our first couple traffic enforcement deputies. By 2011, we had 0. So we went from 6 traffic enforcement deputies to 0 traffic enforcement deputies. And we remained in that position between 2011 and 2018. In 2019, we had the first deputy position approved again. We added that position. And then in 2020, the second full-time dedicated traffic deputy position was reinstated. So we have made some progress, but we're still lagging behind where we were even a decade ago, and not even facing the same challenges that we do today. So this is just kind of an overview of how we deployed our deputies in 2009 and compared to today. So in 2009, we had 6 deputies. They had multiple overlapping shifts. They were on duty between 10 and 20 hours per day, and they worked day and evening shifts. Today, we have 2 deputies. They have 1 overlapping shift per week. They work 10-hour shifts, so there's only 10 hours of coverage per day, and they work day shifts, unless there's a special event or something they need to adjust for. Their primary schedule is day shift. This is really just a statistical comparison of what we were doing in 2009 with our 6 traffic enforcement deputies to what we're doing currently with our 2. So as you can see, in 2009, we were writing over 7,000 traffic citations compared to we're at 2,000 plus year to date, so that'll increase with the few months that we have left. We had 267 total traffic collisions in 2009 compared to the 421 year to date this year. 334 DUI arrests compared to 47 year to date. And one of the biggest numbers is the OTS funding. So in 2009, over $360,000 in OTS grant funding. Currently, this year we were awarded $49,000. There's been years past where we received $0. So a lot of the DUI arrests and some of those stats are related to the OTS funding. We were doing up to 12 DUI checkpoints a year. We were doing 52 DUI saturation operations. We were doing distracted driver operations. So there was just a multitude of different enforcement operations that we were able to conduct. Current money from OTS, we conduct 1 DUI checkpoint a year. So we'll do maybe a handful of DUI saturation operations and a handful of just general traffic enforcement operations, and that's it for the year. And we're lucky to get the 49 because, like I said, we've had years where they awarded us nothing. These are just some comparisons of how the populations have grown around us. So as you all know, Norco is kind of stayed about the same. It looks like we've actually decreased a little bit. I'm guessing that's probably from the reduction in the prison population. But you can see Riverside, Eastvale, Corona, they've all grown at pretty good rates. That's not even including the unincorporated communities that surround us. And it's year to year, we really see that a small fraction of the citations that we issue are to Norco residents. So really what it's telling us is a lot of the people either traveling in for work or school or just cutting through the city are primarily the folks that are receiving citations. And just to touch on the special enforcement team a little bit, historically we've only ever had 2 set deputies in Norco. The third set deputy is a relatively new position that was just added in July of 2020. And we do value that third position. We love having the 3 deputies. They're doing a great job for us on the set team. The reality is we just have a much greater need in traffic enforcement. And because we've historically always had 2 set deputies, I have no doubt or concern that they can continue to provide the level of service that they always have. The job hasn't really changed that much. We do a little bit more with the homeless outreach, but primarily it's the same job today as it was in 2009. They've always done a great job, and I'm not really concerned that their work is going to suffer. So my recommendation is that the City Council approve this proposal. The conversion of this existing dedicated position will have no impact or fiscal impact on the city. This position is going to greatly increase the amount of traffic enforcement to help safeguard the community. And it's also going to allow us to provide evening and weekend coverage. So currently we have the 2 deputies on each end of the week, so we have 7-day-a-week coverage during the day. This position would be a third position, which would be dedicated to a swing shift position, covering half of the weekend. So primarily used as a DUI traffic enforcement car on nights and weekends. And my goal is to have, if approved, this deputy selected and deployed by mid-January. And that date actually just coincides with one of our existing set deputies is rotating off the team. He's just timing out, so it's not really a performance thing or anything like that. It's just he's due to go back to patrol, and so rather than select another set deputy to fill that and then make another change later on, I would like to do this at shift change where he could just rotate back to patrol, and then the new traffic deputy would just slide into that spot and start with the new responsibilities.
Would he stay in Norco or he go somewhere else?
The deputy that's leaving,
yeah.
he's going back to Harupa Valley Station. So the Harupa Valley Station is in great need right now of field training officers. So we have, got it off the top of my head, probably 15 deputy sheriffs that are in the training phase right now. So they're bringing back one of our top tier deputies to become a field training officer and start training the new generation of cops that we're bringing in. So that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
Anyone?
Excuse me. You know, we changed and made a 3-set team. That was at the request of your predecessor, because you guys went to the sheriff's department, went through a whole new program instead of just saying, okay, this is what we got every year. We're going to base it upon the needs of changing. And at that time, that was when we did it, well, we needed, instead of the extra regular patrol person, it was going to end up being another set deputy. And because we had already started increasing the traffic program. And what we have done in that time, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we've increased the duties of those set people. There was no outreach, the homeless outreach before. And your deputy sitting right back there has been a very integral part of that, and part of the set team. And, you know, I'm not in agreement of eliminating the set team because I think they're doing a very valuable job. But that's just one of the things that I look at, because that our change was based upon what was recommended by your staff and your predecessor. So now I'm looking at some time issues as far as that goes. You see the number of collisions have increased. So you got patrol deputies doing traffic reports, right?
Yeah,
they're doing
patrol
it.
deputies are responsible for traffic as well.
Okay, and if I remember right, when I did the Switters and all those good things, it takes, for a non-injury basic TC, they require what, an hour or 4 hours? I can't remember what it was, but somewhere along that to do the report. Is that what it is?
4 or 5 hours to do the
No, 4. Yeah, I mean at least an hour to do a basic non-injury Switters report. Correct?
Yeah, I mean you could probably knock one of those out in less than an hour.
You can, because
if you're proficient.
If
with
you're
them.
proficient, yes. But I'm talking about the patrol deputy. Yeah.
Yeah, and our CSOs also handle traffic.
Okay,
collisions,
that's what I'm saying. So we have the CSOs out there, and so and you're trying to do for enforcement, and I'm trying to build this thing up a little bit for you.
Okay.
What I see coming up, Thanksgiving, I see the holiday season coming up, and I see the porch pirates returning. And in this community, this set team last year was a positive, trying to catch the porch pirates out there, the thefts that are out there, and that's going to happen again. So you're wanting to do this in mid-January, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so our team of 3 will still be there.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Just don't want to take away from that. I'm questioning, and you and I know this as green sheet time. Is there still green sheet time available? What we used to call green sheet time?
For specific enforcement?
For specific enforcement.
We don't really have extra duty time here in the city.
In the city, and that's correct.
Correct.
So you're trying to and here's what I'm trying to get at, is if we allocated a certain amount of funds, and Andy, don't cringe, I'm not going to do that much, so we can get through this traffic situation, and then maybe bring this up at our mid-year budget program, is we could probably look at getting, if you're looking for some immediate help for traffic enforcement, maybe allocate some green sheet time or overtime for a traffic enforcement team that's going to satisfy some of this without disrupting what I consider a very important set team, especially since we throw all those other things on them. And because I think they're very valuable. But then we could look at this in a mid-level budget, and that's going to be up to us if we want to increase that traffic position in there. So is that something that would be interesting, is trying to get your accomplishment, because you're just trying to get our traffic enforcement done especially this time of year.
Well, I'm really looking at traffic enforcement as a long-term issue to deal with. You know, the issues with the mail, the porch pirates, and those sort of things. Those are kind of more seasonal issues, I think. So, in my eyes, the need for dedicated traffic outweighs the need for just a seasonal issue with, you know, mail theft or whatever. We could easily do overtime for either one, and we would certainly welcome, you know, extra funds to do any kind of enforcement, whether it's traffic or other type of criminal enforcement. As you said, the holidays would be passed by the time this would even take effect, and my actual long-term vision, or I guess it's more of a short-term vision, but I would really like to add this position as a conversion of one position, and then really bring an additional deputy on later on to have 4 deputies to cover both ends of the week, days and nights. So
For traffic.
For traffic.
Yeah, and I understand. That makes sense. That's where I want to be on the optimum position. I'm just trying to look and see if we can fill this void, and or we using. And I'm not disputing your numbers. I think if we were to look at allocating some overtime fund to get us through until our mid-year budget, and then see if we want to change this so that we can add another traffic deputy in our mid-year budget, and that would be in early February, first part of February. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we can certainly do whatever council desires. Really, this proposal was just trying to come up with a quick solution at no cost to kind of help fill that void that we have, because, you know, essentially every time I go out into public, that's what I get bombarded with. So, you know,
rightly so.
We do have homeless issues and that sort of thing, and I agree the set team is doing an amazing job. Deputy Wittenberg is doing an amazing job, and I don't think that job is going to be affected. So there have been like a few, maybe just one really big item that's been added to their to-do list, but the reality is they've also had a lot of things taken off the plate, because in, you know, the last almost 2 years we haven't had a lot of the events that they normally are involved in planning and staffing. We haven't had the fairs and the rodeos, and so we have added some work to their plate that we've also taken a lot of work off their plate. So we can certainly go whichever direction you know, council would like us to go, but I don't have a concern that their ability to do their job would suffer at all, the set team.
Well, hopefully those events will be coming back soon, very soon. So, all right,
we all hope
enough
so.
questions for now. Thank you.
Ted, if I could make some
Go ahead.
comments on that. I think you're correct that the prior lieutenant saw the need for the 3 set teams. And primarily that was because of crime prevention and investigation. And that was done as part of what we did with respect to the organization, bringing the patrol hours from 60 hours to 48 or 40 hours. I think on a long-term basis, what Lieutenant Rowan is proposing is actually to go back and fully staff for traffic enforcement. So which includes a 2-step process. The first process is doing what is recommending here tonight, which is convert one of the state deputies to a traffic enforcement deputy. And then when we go to the mid-year budget process, then one additional traffic deputy will be added. So on a long-term basis, we are looking to have 4 instead of have now is 2. So 1 conversion tonight, another 1 added as part of the mid-year budget process. If we do preserve the set team at 3, as you are suggesting, I don't know that the lieutenant would have major objections to that. All that would mean is that we would be adding 1 additional position, if you would. So from where we are today, in total then, we end up adding essentially 3 positions in total, or 2, net 2.
Well, and that's,
Instead of net 1, it will be net 2.
and thank you for clarifying that. And my point here was that I'm trying to give him what he wants without reducing it. And that would be the possibility of us just right now getting him some overtime position money until for that traffic deputy at hours that are needed, and then go ahead and at the mid-year level approve, present the request for that 3rd traffic position. And if he wants, and we'll see how it goes, and maybe at the end of, we do the annual budget to get the other one going. That was my thought.
I think part of the issue is the consistency in enforcement.
Yeah.
I currently have the department doing some special weekend traffic enforcement on a bi-weekly basis to cover the needs on some projects for the weekend. Unfortunately, I think the challenge he's going to face is that challenge of having consistent traffic enforcement by doing it the way that you're thinking, which is through some sort of green sheet or overtime basis. But that's certainly an option. Doesn't get that enforcement on it.
But my thought with the overtime was that it would be done more immediate than waiting until his January. But that's just my thought. Okay.
Robin?
Lieutenant, I did have a question for you. I was kind of surprised by the fact that the citations were only 21% of Norconians. So my question to you would be, is the traffic enforcement primarily on what we would consider our cut-through roads like 7th, 6th, California, Hamner?
Yeah, so a majority of the traffic enforcement is done on Hamner, on 6th Street, on California, and the major thoroughfares.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of the neighborhood stuff. The issue that we have with those is we get a lot of complaints in smaller neighborhoods or stop signs or speeding issues. But after a deputy's been there for a few minutes and they write a ticket, then that area basically becomes dead. And so the deputy just sits there really doing nothing for a couple hours, waiting for a violation. And so they're just much more effective when they're on the roads where there's a lot heavier traffic. And the reality is that's where most of the collisions occur as well. So the enforcement usually follows the traffic collision patterns, and those occur on Hamner and 6th in California and some of River Road, some of the other major thoroughfares through the city.
Okay, thank you. And then my only comment would be when I first saw the staff report, I was like, I don't think so, kind of a hard pass. But then I read the report, and then I think about like out in front of the high school where my work area is specifically, there's one of the digital readout signs for speed. Saturday morning, clocked 60, out in front of the high school. And then I think about the comments that we get all the time too. You guys don't do anything about traffic, speeding and everything. So I definitely see a need. I think this is a good way to take care of that. But I would also just like to say to our residents, as traffic enforcement is increased, I do believe that 21% will go up, because when I'm in the neighborhood, it's my neighbors. From time to time, it's me and it's my son or my kids or whatever. So we just need to be cognizant of that. And I would hope that we would get back to a point where it was one of those things, don't speed in Norco because you're going to get a ticket. And it used to be that way. And I think once we get back to that we're going to see, you know, hopefully where our plan of more traffic enforcement is working. I just don't feel like Norco is like that anymore, where it's like, you know, they're going to get you when you come through, and we need to get back to that. So I'm definitely in support of what you're requesting.
Catherine?
Yeah, I just would say I had sent Andy some questions about the data. I want to thank you for your report because it was very detailed. I appreciate seeing the data from 2009, that, you know, comparing it to now, and realizing that it was only a short amount of time that we've actually had 3 set deputies. You know, we all know that, you know, I feel like you started it out as a little joke, you know, your most common complaint, you wouldn't believe that it's traffic, right? Because we all know that that's what it is. Our residents are asking for this, and I think that's also until they get a ticket, as Robin said. But I think this is a really good solution that you've brought forward and that staff has brought forward as well. And I appreciate, you know, as we start to tackle this issue, you know, we'll keep going and we'll make adjustments and we'll get feedback on what is the best thing to do. But absolutely, I support this. I think it's a really good proposal. Thank you.
Anything, Greg?
Oh, not too much. Myself, like Robin, when I first read this, I didn't like it, but I appreciate the conversation you and I had yesterday and explaining all of this to me. I somewhat I am in agreement with that. Years ago, we had an attitude that you didn't speed in town, and we've certainly lost that. So this is a step in the right direction. I'm still a little hesitant on, and Lieutenant and I talked about this, where we take that green sheet time and overtime money, and I think, Andy, it was like $100,000 that we had allocated for a year.
We used to have that when we had a limited
right
non-traffic enforcement.
Yeah.
That budget is no longer at 100,000. We don't even have a budget for that.
Right.
No, my understanding is that budget was eliminated when the second full-time traffic deputy was approved.
Yes, that's correct.
But this was our Band-Aid at the time, and Lieutenant and I were talking about when Sergeant Decker was here, and you could Friday mornings at 7 o'clock at Detroit and Valley View, you know, fish in a barrel, you know, so everybody else would just avoid that intersection, you know, so.
And we certainly can still do some of that in addition to what he's proposing until we get that next deputy added.
See, I don't know if we really realize the benefits of that. I mean, momentarily, yeah, but it was just like I said, you set your watch by it. So what did that do for the rest of the town? So I'd rather take those kind of monies and put it towards hiring another full-time deputy. That was just kind of the gist of our conversation. But I appreciate your time and
No worries, sir.
explaining this to me. Your deputies are just doing a fantastic job.
And I don't want to take anything away from SET. I mean, all the traffic and the SET guys and gals are all doing an amazing job. I mean, they're all putting in a lot of work and doing great traffic enforcement and great criminal cases. It's really, I was just trying to think of a fiscally responsible way to, you know, bump up our traffic enforcement and, you know, kind of do it sooner than later. So I'm definitely open to any suggestions or extra monies or, you know, even filling. If I could have all 3 of the SET deputies and 4 traffic deputies, I would be ecstatic. You know, I'm sure that's not going to happen overnight. So this is one of those things where we can also always add the SET deputy back at a later time if we see that need. I was just looking at really the traffic need is kind of, you know, priority number 1 right now.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Well, you made my day. I've told you my story about the crazy guy in the truck, and you guys caught the guy, so I was real happy about that. I have to tell, I love this story. There's this guy in this black truck that almost T-boned me, and I used to watch him go up 6th Street going toward California, going 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, just blowing through all the stop signs. And I'm going to make a left turn, and for some reason I just hesitated. Had I pulled forward, he went into the oncoming traffic and went right through. So the other day I'm walking down from Pumpkin Rock, and I see this SOB, and I go, God, dude. And then I put my head down, and I hear another car coming, and go, and it was a cop. And I was so happy he got him. He nailed him. So please let that guy know. And
absolutely.
what I really hope is that all your deputies know how we appreciate them. If you notice, the rest of the country's catching up to Norco now and liking cops. And we really do appreciate the job you do. And I wish that we could hire more of you, and I think as time goes on, maybe we will be able to. I lived through 2009, 2010, and it was really, really tough to let those guys go. I think we even sold the motorcycles, didn't we? Yeah, we sold the motorcycles. I mean, that I don't think people knew how we were like, oh, but we kept the substation, and kind of what turned us around was the fire, getting CAL FIRE. That's what saved us. But I mean, it'd been up to those guys, our whole fire department. You'd all be gone. You only need one deputy. So anyway, do I hear a motion? Do you need a motion? Public comments?
One other comment?
Yeah.
Quick. And just as a clarification, so if we vote for this, we're going to go ahead and do this. I would expect somewhere at the mid-level budget, just like you said, to see on the additional thing, an additional deputy. Okay, so you got to listen to the plans. And then maybe at the year-end budget, we need to look at the cost.
Fiscal year and budget.
The fiscal year-end budget. Because no matter what we do, and Justin, this goes to you, is sustainability. You brought out the 2009 report, and what happened? We could not sustain them. I do not want to be in that position again. If we're going to say we want to get you up to 4 traffic deputies, which I agree with, but I want to be able to sustain them and not do it for 6 months and go, we can't afford it anymore. And that's one of my reasoning behind doing it. It's just like when we changed over to 3 set deputies, is it sustainable? And when you guys redid the contract. And that's one thing I want to just let you know, that when we do it, it's not going to be just for a year and say, okay, we can't do that anymore. So just think of sustainability when we do these programs.
Yeah, I mean, a short-term position is definitely not my desire. Andy and I have had discussions, and I believe we will continue to have those discussions. And
yeah, because that's the only thing that's going to save us in the long run, especially the residents. All right.
Any public comments, Dana?
We have no public comments on this item.
Closing. Do I hear a motion?
Got one comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
About sustainability, that however we proceed, we should be prudent with it and do our due diligence. But what will also, that we didn't have in 2009, is Measure R money. And one of the premises for Measure R is to protect further cuts from law enforcement. So we didn't have that tool back then.
I mean, 2009, 2010, you had the economic downturn. You had a fire department that was, 60% of our budget? What was it?
Yeah, Kevin, but we had $60,000 in the bank. So
yeah, that's true. We did. We were good. So can I please get a motion?
Motion to approve the recommendation by the...
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I think she was faster. All right. right, moving on to City Council staff communications. Sam, anything? Melvin, anything? Anything to tell us? Ask? I'm not asking you, Brian. I'm asking you. You're
I
soon
know
to be
he's
out the
gonna.
door.
He has something to share with you.
All right. You got something to share with us, Melvin?
Hello all, I just wanted to say, hope you guys are doing well. Wanted to share with you this evening, me and my officers went out to a call where there was a traffic collision with a horse in a vehicle. The occupants in the vehicle are doing fine, they were shaken up. The horse rider was taken in AMR, but she looks like she was doing fine, but we'll check back on her. And the horse was also taken to home to get a vet, right? Will be home, and then it's going to be seen by a vet. So I wanted to let you guys know about the traffic accident.
Okay. When was that? When?
I would say that was about 6:10. About 6:10.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Melvin.
You're welcome.
Michelle? Matt? Lisette? Alma? Chief? Dana?
Just hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, since I won't see you until December 1st for the next meeting.
No. Chad?
I want to make sure council knew, we currently have a project on Temescal Avenue in front of the high school. We're doing a new storm drain project that connects the existing storm drain, replaces damaged air there, but it also goes through one of the residential homes and connects to the South Norco Channel. Part of that work, obviously, is creating the new pipeline that goes across Temescal. Is going to create some havoc. So we've authorized the contractor actually do the work next week during Thanksgiving, while the school is closed for that time period. But they will be closing down the street, except only to local traffic being allowed. But so basically, everybody's going to be detoured around it unless you live there. But they will accommodate the residents who live there. But it's the fastest way they can get it done. They're going to bring in a second crew to try to get it done within 3 days. Probably take a fourth, but they're trying to shoot for 3 days. But that area will be closed to most traffic unless you live there. So avoid the area during that break time period. But it's for a reason to try to get it out of the way and not impact the school.
Well done, Robin. Good job. Brian?
Just, Mr. Mayor, maybe at the end of the evening we could close the meeting in honor of Robert Hicks, who we just recently lost in our community, who's a great Norconian and someone who always was giving back to this community.
Lawyer? No, lawyer. You're a lawyer, right? You remember? 4 first grades? No. Andrew. Ted.
Yeah, I do. The one thing with Measure R is I didn't want to make it a request for pet projects by the council. And so this isn't a pet project of mine, but it is something that I'm very, really want the Measure R committee to look at. And we've been on this renovation of Ingalls Park up there for a long time, and Robin sits on that committee. And what I'd like to see us have the Measure R committee look at possibly funding of the bleachers and the lighting in Marino Arena. And I say this because we're coming back out of COVID. We're trying to get one of our 3 signature events going up. That would be the 3 signature events is Horse Week, the August Rodeo, and the fair, and get them back online. So the bleachers are expensive to rent each year, and somehow or another we got to get started. And I know that things are not cheap right now, but if anything else, if we can get at the next Measure R committee get them some preliminary numbers to look at to bring back to this council or get an approval for them to put it on our CIP budget for the upcoming year, I would appreciate it. And if I need to make a motion or get that agendized, I will. So I'll make a motion to get that on the measurement on the agenda.
Your second?
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
That. What's the magnitude that you're looking at?
The bleachers and the foundation and everything for it, we're looking at about $2 million, and that's being really out there, $2 million. And it's a long-term project.
I guess my question then is to Andy that a project of that magnitude, and I don't see how you can have. I think it would involve a larger study than asking staff to slap something together for Monday night.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. This is certainly one of the reasons why this was before you to consider if you want to direct measure our oversight members to take a look at this. But I do agree with you that a project of this magnitude, which may also have some other impacts, okay, if we expand the bleacher, or the bleachers, what does that mean with respect to how we want to operate the facility? What additional staff do we need to do that? What additional events do we need to add? So it does require some careful analysis before you make that such a commitment, would be my position.
One other thing that I know Robin, Ted, your Engels Master Plan Committee, should there be some involvement with that, or whatever discussions you have going on with the additional bleachers?
And that's exactly what we've done now for almost 4 or 5 months?
Yeah.
Of meeting and doing that.
Just to do that, we've reached out to our existing company who put them in, Sturdy Steel, and we actually we do have preliminary concepts. And looking at that, we've met with some of our groups preliminary. We actually have another meeting tomorrow to look over what those needs are. What we estimated about, because of the use and what has to be rented and brought in, is about additional 3,000 seats. So the numbers, today's numbers, and what Ted quoted is pretty firm from the contractor. That number could change next year, as we know how steel is. However, we've done preliminary budget estimates that we think we're pretty comfortable with. So the issue on the lighting that Councilman Hoffman talked about is that our lighting system there is at that 20 plus. We're not able to retain parts. What we want to do is move to an LED system. And then also the problem with the system now is we're on battery backup for emergency lighting. We're spending a tremendous amount of money every year on that type of a system. And in the future, we will be having to replace that system. It's going to be significantly expensive. So to move to an LED system that accomplishes the same thing will be cheaper for us long run. And so that was one of the projects that we've met with our master plan committee to discuss for improvements of that. So when I look at those numbers and trying to estimate into 2022, I think we're around 2.5 million.
I have a question. What is the process for what it would be the normal process to follow for a council person to request, or a resident or whoever to request something to be put on an agenda for one of our committees?
Just what's
I think
happening.
that's what we're doing right now.
Okay, so this is the correct process that we're following.
Yeah,
Okay.
the city council can direct.
And then our Ingalls master plan, is that an ad hoc committee?
No, we're not.
Because we're mentioning Measure R, and then I hear it needs to go to another committee, and is that on our list of?
No, the Ingalls Master Plan Committee was set up years ago, and 2 council people were selected to be on that every year. It is more of an advisory committee to help us. It also has 2 Parks and Recreation commissioners who sit on that committee as well. Anything that we looked at when we approved the master plan, we looked at creating this ad hoc committee to help staff in guidance of that master plan and the completion of the master plan.
Okay, so is that not a committee then following, because I'm looking at what our processes are, right? So that they're straightforward and transparent, and this is how things are done. Would that be a committee that then needs to be on our list that each year, you know, Robin's on unload, or, you know, Kevin and I sit on the CRC committee to be transparent on who's on that committee, and that they're selected each year, that for if they're participating in a process that's providing feedback on something like this large of an item?
Yeah, we set up our own business committees, sort of. We've done that with the council, where we do that to get advice, to look at projects, to look at various different things. It's no different than on my commission. I set up a bunch of informal, and I have subcommittees that help staff in that process. The Ingalls committee is the same way. The difference would be is if the council wants to make that an actual formal committee that would be reporting to you guys on a monthly basis, then that's something that you would have to consider and add it. Right now it's not. It's more of a business committee that I use to help me in guidance towards the master plan.
Yeah, the answer to the question is yes, it probably should be a committee that if there are going to be 2 council persons on it, I don't know exactly how they get appointed, but it should be the same process as with others. I think it just started as something which was short-term, ad hoc, and has gotten a little bigger and lasted. The ad hoc part which is fine because it's limited to a specific
I
subject
think the
matter.
audit committee on there is an ad hoc, right?
Yeah.
They've essentially been inactive. I mean, now they're kind of active now, but I've known for 2-3 years.
The original committee had 22 people on it, so this is a more condensed version.
But I mean, if we want to put it on the committee, in fact, it might be good because when you start talking $2.5 million to put in bleachers, it's probably best that we do memorialize it as a committee that we're assigning people to.
Well,
so
and any time that 2 council people are going to serve on a committee together, along with planning commissioners, it should be.
Yeah, because it would be nice to finish that park.
Or Parks and Rec commissioners.
So we have a motion on the floor. We had a question. So as an ancillary issue, I guess we need to memorialize so that we need to agendize that. So first we have Ted's agenda item. Let's get that.
Yeah.
So do we have a second to Ted wanting to discuss the $2.5 million or whatever the amount is for those bleachers? Is that correct motion?
I was just going to send it to Measure R committee.
He wants to send it.
I will not vote to send it to Measure R. It's too much money. We need to discuss it. My issue is that, in my opinion, with the bridge being finished in 2023, it is time that we must do something on this side of the bridge. We need to address the community center. We need to address Old Hamner. We need to address that corridor, because what's going to happen is you got Eastville over there building all kinds of stuff, and they're literally doing an entire business model based on Silver Lakes. They now joke with me and say, "Oh, Silver Lakes, that's South Eastvale." And personally, I love the idea of the bleachers. I want to finish the park, but for me, the priority and a decision like doing Ingalls Park, I have great faith in Ted and Robin, who have been working on that park for a long time, and I would rather have right now the discussion with them, and even Greg, who built the cover. I mean, I've got 3 people sitting here that know that park like the back of their hand, and I don't really want to send it to the Measure R. Nothing against Measure R. I would like to hear from the horse's mouth what needs to happen there. But for me, the more important project is, and truthfully, I think we're being negligent, not doing something with that. I mean, truthfully, 10 years ago, as you all know, I would not have put the money into Riley Gym. I would have built a new one. Because I just think that we could have done something much better with that for the dance programs, all the different programs, and I just really believe we need to prepare this side of the bridge and try to get as much done as we possibly can. And if we can figure out a way to do both, I'm all for that too. But in terms of Ingalls Park, I would rather hear from those three. I get where you're coming from, you know, but you know what? Something has to be done. I've brought it up over and over and over again. So what's the motion? What do we want? Forgive my frustration.
That remember that none of this is agendized. So
no, I totally understand it, but the truth is if you want to send it to Measure R, you won't have my vote. Not because I'm against it. I'd rather bring it back to council.
Kevin, let me just rescind it.
Sure.
Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you right now is that if you want to do this on facilities, then I make a motion that we put together, and I think Andy's already got this in plan, but we're going to do it sooner than later, the priorities for facilities in this city. I'm not going to wait until mid-year and let 6 months go down the road and let the cost accelerate more. So my motion is that we set aside and prioritize what facilities in this city that we want to improve on that are on our infrastructure. That's my motion.
I have another question then. Tandy, would that not be somewhat part of our strategic plan that we're working on?
Exactly.
Thank you.
I met with staff yesterday and a consultant to work on our draft strategic plan. Is now of the departments to provide input. One of the key things in there with respect to infrastructure that I feel that we need to do for transparency reasons, for economic reasons, for financial prudence, and a whole lot of other reasons, is to first develop a policy that deals with the criteria by which we allocate money for capital projects, infrastructure, and all of that. So we have a scorecard. And so if everyone asks us, why are you building project A versus project B, we can go through down this list of 10 items or whatever the number is to say we have rated them against all these criteria and believe that the city council as a whole, and perhaps with the input from the community, that this is a project that the city needs. Unfortunately, I can't promise you that that is something that I'm going to bring back the next city council meeting. The idea of the strategic plan is we are going to finalize the draft by the end of next month. It will go to the various commissions, as we did the last time, to get them to review, provide additional input, and it will come to the city council in February. That's the goal right now. Meanwhile, I do want to point out we have a lots and lots of capital projects that are being worked on right now. So I don't, maybe I'm totally out of line here, don't see the need to add on a whole lot more capital projects until we figure this what we are doing with what we've already approved. We have them going on. So I think we have that discussion, but it will be at the right time.
So where are we at?
I have Ted's motion to bring the priorities for facilities, city improvements, back for discussion prior to mid-year. That's the motion on the floor right now.
I'll just rescind it based upon what he said. Thank you.
Catherine.
Trees. Do we have tree? Can people still get trees, Chad?
Yes.
Can we send it out? Can we? Yes, okay. I have had a couple people ask, but just in case it's winter, we have some more trees. If anybody wants a beautiful tree for our urban forest, I have a beautiful one in my front yard. It looks great. They did a great job planting it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Greg?
You touched on it just a little bit, made me think of it. This is a question for Chad. Here a while ago, we talked about a stoplight at the north entrance of Silver Lakes, preferably left turn only into Norco.
With a barricade.
Is there, I'm serial about this, any status update? What do we need to do to accelerate or move forward?
I'm not sure. There's unfortunately some politics that come into play in this issue, in that we have not started on the actual analysis because we have become aware that there's some concerns with Eastvale about putting a signal there, and the likelihood that they likely would not approve putting a signal in that area, because it does likely require us putting the signal poles in their right of way within their jurisdiction. So Andy and I have been talking about that, whether or not it might be best that we, before spending any money doing any activities, sit down with Eastvale and have a candid discussion about what their concerns are, what issues they have with it, and then try to figure out if there's a path forward that we can then engineer to, with the money that you've allocated, so that as we're doing the analysis, we can look at their concerns or needs and how we would solve their concerns, if whatever they might be. And that's currently the path forward that I've been considering moving, and trying to make sure that what I'm doing is not a failed exercise, but something hopefully we can get the two agencies working together and understanding the needs and concerns of both, and hopefully finding a pathway forward.
Is there a design element on signalization that we would not be required or to impact their property?
It's
a type of
difficult.
signalization that remains on our property.
It's difficult only because of where the entrance at the northerly portion is. It's literally at the corner of the city, and it goes at an angle crossing Eastvale. So the intersection itself could not be anything other than going perpendicular to the roadway, which which crosses through Eastvale. Whether the signal heads could be put in a different way or methodology so that's not physically there, we'd have to look at the designs and see how to be done, if it could be done. But that's one of the things we would look at if ultimately that became our ultimate requirement, is that we couldn't put it there. And the other issue too is we're wanting to make sure that obviously we are adjacent to another agency and their traffic signals. I mean, it is close. We want to make sure that we are doing coordination with that, so that our signals are coordinated, so that they're not impacting each other, and we're just operating opposite of each other during the times. And we're also talking about times where it's really just the weekends. During the week, it's not even needed. It's pretty much.
I don't want to get lost in the details. To me, the reason Eastvale objects to it is because it's going to affect their pocketbook.
City managers flat said no, they will never go along with it. Yeah. Period.
We should have told them no on that easement then for their sewer for their hotel.
So I really don't care what they think about. I'm not willing to, compromise safety, but I think it's just a more financial impact on their regard. So I don't want to lose it in those details. If there's another form of signalization that we can use and implement, I'd like to see us move forward.
Understood.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Two things. One, Bobby Mendoza. You may all know him. Becky worked for, he's very, very ill, and he won't be able to do our Pearl Harbor this year. He normally, 14 years he's done the sound, 13 years. And so let's all put him in our prayers. He's goes in Friday for some sort of a surgery. And we will close this meeting tonight in memory of Bob Hicks. Moment of silence. We're adjourned.